When this all started, a lot of people, me included, thought it was a little overhyped by the media. We've been through it before. Remember the great of 2014? But as numbers started coming in and people started to see how infectious this is, how easily transmissible it is, even the worst cults had to take action and issue a response. So let's take a gander at how Jehovah's Witnesses are responding to the situation. Let's get into it. Before we get into it, I want to shout out my merch store. I have a new addition to my store. It's a no trespassing sign that says, "Danger, apostates, disfellowshipped, and/or suppressive persons past this point." This sign is mostly intended for people who are sick of being bothered by Jehovah's Witnesses or Mormons and just want to be left alone. I heard people tell me they had pagan or even pictures of Richard Spencer or Confederate flags or whatever in their windows, and Jehovah's Witnesses still knocked on their door. When I was a Jehovah's Witness, I believed that nobody was beyond redemption. No matter what their ideology or belief system, we should still try to save them. They aren't afraid of shit, except one thing: apostates. They are scared shitless by apostates. They're agents of Satan. They aren't afraid of literal, but they are afraid of apostates. And you don't have to be an ex-Jehovah's Witness to be an apostate either. Just being critical of the religion will do the trick. So the sign is 100% truthful for anybody who wants it. Want to keep Jehovah's Witnesses away? Get the sign and post it right outside your door. I can just about guarantee they won't come knocking again. If you want the signs, then click the link in the description in the pinned comment, and it'll take you to my Etsy store where you can get one. You can also reach it by going to telltaleatheist.com/3D store. I have some other stuff for sale on there too, like mugs and stickers and stuff, so give it a look. Now let's get into the situation. It was interesting because when all this started, Jehovah's Witnesses kind of disregarded it. They didn't seem to take it too seriously. But as time went on, it became impossible to deny how serious it is. I honestly didn't think there was a single thing on this planet that would stop Jehovah's Witnesses from knocking on doors. But sure enough, they issued the order to shut it down. The even more fascinating thing about it is how they reacted to the memorial. The memorial is basically like their Easter. I've talked about it last year and the year before, but I'll give you guys another little primer. It's where Jesus sat around the table with his apostles and passed the bread and the wine around and said, "This is my body, this is my blood. Continue doing this in remembrance of me." He didn't really specify a time frame for how often you should do it. Some Methodists do it once a month, some Catholics do it once a week, they do it once a year. But only specific people are allowed to drink the wine and eat the bread. The anointed, members of the 144,000, people who believe they're going to heaven. Drinking the wine or eating the bread when you aren't anointed is a grievous and disgusting sin in their eyes. In fact, most Jehovah's Witnesses will never even see somebody partake of the emblems, as they call it. I got to watch somebody do it once when I was like 6. So that information should provide some context when I show you this clip of an apostate walking into a kingdom hall during the memorial and doing this.
To the friends I haven't spoke to in years, to the parents that shun me because I'm no longer one of you, to the governing body that's covering up,
we're asking you
this goes out to you. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, that was a pretty big deal. You could hear the gasps. Check this woman out. She's trying to GTFO as quick as she can. She feels unsafe around apostates. She thinks they're because that's what the governing body told them. Anyways, getting a little off track there. The point behind all of this is that Jehovah's Witnesses take the memorial very seriously, and they just announced that they'll be splitting into their service groups to observe the memorial. When I was in the religion, they used to have things called book study groups. They'd basically split the congregation into sections of like 15 to 20 people each, and you'd go over to somebody's house once a week and study a book together. Basically like a Well, they did away with the book studies, but Jehovah's Witnesses really are preppers in the truest sense. They've been expecting full societal breakdown for decades. They actually expected the government to shut down religion completely, basically make it illegal to go door to door or to believe anything about God. But they swore they'd continue preaching the good word to the bitter end. Well, the moment they started taking the seriously, they instantly split up into their They've canceled their yearly conventions where every Jehovah's Witness in the tri-state area gets together. They've told them to stop knocking on doors, but to continue preaching to people online, calling people from the phone book, and mailing letters to people. And about the memorial, they take it so extremely seriously, but they told them to observe the memorial with the aka the service groups. They actually split people up into their and called off door knocking before the Mormon Church did. So good for them on that one. But the Mormon Church did eventually halt missionary work too. But here's where it gets interesting. Jehovah's Witnesses are still releasing their JW Broadcasting show, and they had some interesting things to say on it. This is Stephen Lett, governing body member. Let's give it a listen.
The spread of this is distressing, to be sure. But we're really not surprised to see the world in the grip of such pestilence, are we? Jesus made it clear at Luke 21:11 that pestilence would be part of the sign of the last days. And in Revelation chapter 6, the ride of the fourth horseman includes mention of. So the events unfolding around us are making clearer than ever that we're living in the final part of the last days, undoubtedly the final part of the final part of the last days, shortly before the last day of the last days.
Okay, hold up. That's a tongue twister. The final part of the final part of the last days. Shortly before the last day of the last days? That's... okay. So you're saying that the sign that Armageddon is about to start. I wonder if that's what they thought about the from 2005 to 2012, or the flu in 1968, or the Asian flu in the 1950s, or the Spanish flu in 1918, or the cholera in 1910, or the other flu in 1889, or the third cholera in 1852, or the Black Plague in 1346, or the Plague of Justinian in 541, or the Antonine Plague in 165. Looks like there have been all through history. What makes this one the that the Bible was talking about? Is it just a gut feeling for you? I guess they do consider themselves God's mouthpieces on earth, so in their own eyes, they are more qualified to talk about this than any other human. They're actually taking this so seriously that they provided information about it to their members. It's on their website, and it was also told to people on a congregational level. Let's take a look at the website and see what they had to say. The world headquarters of Jehovah's Witnesses is closely monitoring the outbreak of the We know from Bible prophecy that pestilence is a notable feature of the last days. When there is an outbreak of it is wise to take practical measures to protect ourselves as well as others. Okay, sound advice so far. Let's keep reading. Some may wonder how our brothers and sisters are doing in the affected areas. The outbreak has significantly impacted the branch offices and congregations in Italy, Japan, South Korea, and other countries. In some cases, the branch office has had to cancel tours and visits from outside guests. In other cases, the government has restricted large public gatherings, which has required the branch to cancel circuit assemblies. Additionally, congregations have had to adjust arrangements for the ministry and congregation meetings in some areas. Despite these challenges, our brothers continue to build themselves up spiritually and encourage one another. Like I said before, they've been preparing for societal collapse for a long time, which isn't exactly what's happening right now. There's a lot of societal strain worldwide, but it isn't exactly full collapse. Jehovah's Witnesses are treating it like it is, and assuming that Armageddon is right around the corner. But this isn't quite bad enough to cause full collapse. To have full societal collapse, it would have to disproportionately affect the workforce, for one thing. It would also have to take out the country's leadership. Like Congress would have to suffer heavy losses. I think a virus with a 20% across the board would probably do the trick. The latest numbers that I have, and bear in mind, this is a fluid situation, are saying that 0.7% of the population as a whole will face. The working age population is the least susceptible to severe symptoms. It's mostly elderly people or people with underlying health conditions who are the most susceptible. It's bad. It's horrific. I will lock myself away from society for as long as it takes to protect it. I will do anything I can to help. I'll donate any resource I have to help. But it isn't societal collapse level like Jehovah's Witnesses are making it out to be. They just really want Armageddon to be here already. They kind of maybe have an end times prediction out right now in the second generation teaching. And if society doesn't collapse in the next 25 years or so, then they're going to have to amend that prediction. It's like there's a silver lining behind every for Jehovah's Witnesses. They know the end is here. They know it's about to happen. They want it more than anything. As Sam Harris has said, there's a silver lining behind every and that's pretty disturbing. Let's continue reading. In these situations, our brothers have found the principles below to be helpful. These points may also assist you and your family if you're faced with an outbreak in your area. 1. Do not panic. While it's good to be alert to and to take reasonable precautions. The response should be a measured approach based on facts, not fear. 2. Follow government recommendations and directives. Local authorities often implement precautions or restrictions for public health. It is good to keep informed and comply with the government's directives. 3. Promote good hygiene. It's essential to wash your hands regularly with soap and water or use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer. We should also keep frequently touched surfaces clean in our home and at our Kingdom Hall. Additionally, medical experts discourage shaking hands in such situations, as this could continue the spread of the Regarding the World Health Organization has provided additional advice for the public. 4. Show love to others. While we all know the importance of attending Christian meetings and participating in public ministry, if you're sick, it's best to stay home to avoid infecting others. This shows brotherly love and protects our brothers and sisters and our non-witness neighbors. 5. Follow temporary adjustments to congregation arrangements. In areas where there's an outbreak of it may be necessary for the branch office to temporarily cancel congregation meetings, assemblies, and other theocratic events. This has been the case in some areas where the virus has hit the hardest, such as in certain regions of Italy, Japan, and South Korea. Based on local circumstances, the elders may be able to provide access to recorded meetings, which publishers can watch from home. Publishers may be able to participate in ministry through phone calls, text messages, emails, or letters. So there's their advice. I'm actually really surprised they linked to a government website on their website. They fancy themselves a sub-government within another government. I figured they'd provide the information to their members directly. And number 1 on the list is do not panic. I honestly think that's sound advice. As I've said before, this disproportionately affects people who aren't in the workforce anymore. People within the workforce are largely coming out the other side just fine. It's easily transmitted, so we absolutely have to be obnoxiously careful not to get it ourselves so we don't spread it to people who are more vulnerable. But the people who provide our food and drive our trucks and all that other stuff are largely going to be just fine. If you see empty shelves in stores, it's because people are panicking, not because there are actual shortages. I heard the general manager of a Walmart near me saying he isn't going to take toilet paper returns when this is all over. So all you dumbasses who panic bought 3 years worth of toilet paper, guess what? You're stuck with that stupid decision now. Don't panic. Just stay home when it's recommended, if at all possible. We'll make it through this together, and I'll be here keeping you entertained as always. I've covered more cults' responses to the on my podcast. There was one cult in South Korea who intentionally spread it. I'll put a link to the clip in the description and the pinned comment. Give it a watch. Also, don't forget to check out my Etsy store where I sell these no trespassing signs. They might not seem terribly useful at this immediate moment, but give it some time. I can just about guarantee that this will not lead to Armageddon, and Jehovah's Witnesses will be back on the street knocking on doors in no time. Japan just ended their state of emergency. America will too eventually. Anyways, that's all I've got for you. Thanks for watching, guys.